All right, everyone. I am programmed to always start on time. How you doing? It's Friday. It's 5 o'clock. As I love to say, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. We hit that finish line on the East Coast quicker than some of you. So if you're still working, I appreciate you sneaking in a visit here as we do live at 5 each and every Friday at 5 o'clock. And we have some fun with a special guest. This is my way to catch up with a friend, and we do it so that you can enjoy it as well. Thanks for joining on LinkedIn Live, Facebook, and the 3-1 group as well, Facebook page and YouTube, where you can find all of our episodes. Why don't we go ahead and do it right now? All right, I've been looking forward to this one. We have a great guest each and every week. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring him right in. He coached at the University of Kentucky, coached baseball for many years, the all-time winningest coach there at Kentucky for the baseball program, Keith Madison. Keith, good to see you.
Dave, good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I try to catch people up. For me, my stop in Lexington, Kentucky was some magical years from 1990 through 1997. So I was in the heart of some of your coaching area, and I just – for some reason or the other, I always got sent to do UK baseball, and then eventually I was able to call a season of play-by-play there with you guys on the radio as well. I learned so much about the game, and I had so much fun, Keith. You're an amazing guy.
Well, thanks, Dave. I was thinking before I came on here that when you were in Lexington, there were some real characters in local television. I'm thinking of you, Kenny Rice, Dick Gabriel, Dave Baker, Alan Cutler. I mean, it was a really great group of guys, and really helped me get the program going and get some fans interested. So it was a fun era.
And I know, and I haven't seen the actual, I guess it's still considered a new park to me. You know, I was around during the old park days, and I thought that was a pretty nice ballpark.
Oh, I loved our old ballpark, and we just kept getting, making it a little bit better, raise some money for lights, and then raise some money for an outfield fence, raise some money for some new chairback seats and a new press box. And it was a challenge, but I look back on those days and I think about how much fun it was, really. But boy, the new stadium, Dave, I hope you get to see it soon. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm coming back soon here for a little reunion at the end of August. So I will make sure that I get a chance to see it. You know, what was always interesting, Keith, you played in an amazing conference in the SEC. How tough was it that you were one of the most northern teams? Because I always remember some very cold and rainy activities in the spring.
Well, it was really tough, in the beginning, especially because we didn't have an indoor facility. We actually put up a batting cage and built a mound at the old Tattersalls horse sales pavilion. They allowed us to come in and build a mound where they used to come in and, show the horses and auction them and all that.
Yeah.
And so we would actually do sprints and base running drills out in the horse stalls, and it would be like 30 degrees. And the guys are sprinting through horse manure, and the dust is rolling. And when we have our reunions, there's some stories about that. But the cool thing was building that mound in there. And we actually had baseball clinics. We had guys like Jim Cott and Russ Nixon and a bunch of really neat guys do baseball clinics at Tattersalls there in the horse sales pavilion. So it was cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess if you're going to play in a conference, it's great to be in one that is as tough as that. But also it has to be tough to manage in that too, because even if you're having a good year, it can be tough to be at a decent level in a conference like the SEC.
Well, one of the things that was difficult, again, back in the day was, there was no uniform starting time for a season. So if we played Florida in the first SEC series, our record might be 7-3 or something like that, and their record would be like 20-4. So their number one pitcher or their starting rotation, they had so many more innings logged, and their hitters had faced so much more live pitching. We were at a serious disadvantage, and we were in the same division with Florida. So we had Florida and Georgia and some of those teams in the Deep South that had a distinct advantage over playing schools like Kentucky, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. But now with the uniform starting date and with all the teams having indoor facilities, field houses, and also turf on the field, it's sort of it's still not equal, but it's closer.
But it seems like the selling point in recruiting would be there. Okay, I mean, obviously the perception was it's a basketball school. But what was your selling point to recruits to play at Kentucky, Keith?
That's a great question. I laugh because of some of the things I used to tell recruits. They just popped in my head. But we had of course basketball, and we would bring recruits in for a basketball game, and there'd be 24,000 people in Rupp Arena, and we also would take recruits on tours of horse farms, and they are spectacular here in Central Kentucky. And occasionally, well, maybe more than occasionally, a recruit would say, "But coach, it really gets cold here in Kentucky in February and March when we start the season." I'd say, well, I guess if the Red Sox draft you, you probably wouldn't sign, right? And he said, well, sure, if it was, the right money and everything. And I said, well, it gets pretty cold in Boston in April, so and then I would say this, if a kid was a little bit cocky or something, and if he was from Georgia or South Carolina or Florida, I would say if he said something about, being cold or something like that, I'd say, hey, anybody can play baseball in South Carolina, Florida, and those states. It takes a man to play here in Kentucky.
Oh my goodness. That is so true. Keith, you had so much talent there at Kentucky, and then we saw some amazing talent on the road, and you did as well. I always remember that. I think David Eckstein on that Florida lineup that one year ended up being one of 7 guys in that starting lineup that I think went on to Major League Baseball.
Yes.
I mean, and so many guys in the SEC.
And, that Eckstein story is just phenomenal. He almost had to beg Florida to let him play there. And then, I mean, everybody looks at that guy and they say he doesn't have a chance. And some scout, bless his heart, he said that kid is a player and he's going to give a great effort and he'll be good for the organization. And he ends up being a really, really good major league player.
How can you tell? How can you tell? I mean, recruiting seems like, and the art of telling who's going to be a talent seems like an art. It is a really art. Everybody's opinion, everybody's style or system has to be different. What was yours, Keith, in finding talent?
Well, it's really, really hard to look inside someone's heart. And that's where it is. I mean, I've seen big guys with great skills that didn't have heart. And I've seen little guys like Eckstein or my own Andy Green.
Oh yeah.
That, they just they had enough athletic ability, but they had huge hearts. And I always told everybody, Andy Green's number one tool was that he believed. Believing was his number one tool, and he believed he could get a hit off of any pitcher in the league, and that's what made him special. That is a really hard thing for recruiters, pro scouts, whatever, to see. But you have to spend time with those guys to find out if they have heart. You have to talk to their coaches. You have to talk to people that maybe they don't even know you're recruiting that young man. Yeah. Just so you can learn more about him. Occasionally I would have the good fortune to run into a recruit's teachers, and boy, they know those kids and they know the effort they give. So yeah, it's a lot of effort to do a really good job of recruiting. I mean, every baseball person can recognize talent.
Sure.
If you go to a high school game and you see Frank Thomas, you're going, oh yeah, I think so. But to see the heart, that's the very, very difficult thing. And I was very fortunate to have some players in my program that had that heart, and I know while you were here, we had a young man named Scott Downs. He had that. I mean, his heart was huge and his competitive spirit was huge. And he was when we got him, he was just a skinny lefty, but man, could he pitch. And he, like Andy Green, believed. I
remember a few years ago when I was covering the Angels out in in Los Angeles. Scott and I took a photo down in the locker room because to remember those days. Because I remember, we used to laugh because you were throwing him midweek, Keith, at times. I mean, that guy, I told him, I said, I don't know how you didn't throw out your arm as much as you played in college.
He would beg me to pitch. I mean, really, he just wanted to compete. And he was of all the players I ever coached, he probably had the best makeup or he was so loose. But when he towed the rubber and the umpire said play ball, he was a fierce competitor. So he was a beautiful guy to coach.
Everybody likes to know how people started. You signed a professional contract yourself. How were you found in baseball?
Wow, that's a story. I mean, there's going to be people that watch this, listen to this, and they're not going to believe this story, but this is true. The draft, I was playing American Legion baseball for Bowling Green. I grew up about 30 miles from Bowling Green, and back in those days, Legion ball was the thing. I mean, it wasn't travel ball.
Yep.
You know, like I had to try out for the Legion team. There were probably 75 players trying out for the team, so I had to prove myself. And I'm from a country school, Edmonson County High School, and so that was a whole scary thing for me because they were the Bowling Green High kids and the Warren Central kids and all the big schools. But I made the team and actually started pitching pretty good. So I finally got up in the nerve, and I've already graduated from high school. I haven't been recruited. I got a couple of basketball letters, and things like that, but nothing in baseball. So I go to my Legion coach, and his name was Mike Cobb. And I said, Coach, I really want to play college baseball. Can you help me? And he said, yeah, I'll call some coaches. So he calls Johnny Reagan, who was the legendary coach at Murray State University.
Sure.
Just a phenomenal person, classy guy. And he said, hey, I got this kid from Brownsville, Kentucky, and he hasn't signed yet. And would you give him a look? And he said, yeah, I will. If you think he's Murray State material, we'll give him a look. So we were playing in this tournament in Paducah, Kentucky at the old baseball stadium. It's an old minor league stadium, and I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but it's a classic old minor league park. And I'm feeling pretty good because they got a grass infield and they actually have a lot of people watching this. So Coach Reagan was supposed to watch me pitch on Saturday night. We're playing Greensburg on Friday night, and we jump out to like a 9-1 lead. And I'm a pitcher only. I'm not playing a position, so I'm in the dugout just enjoying the game. And all of a sudden, in the sixth inning, we look up and Greensburg scored 3 or 4 runs, and it's like 9-5. And then the next inning, they score a couple more runs. It's like 9-7. In the ninth inning, it's the top of the ninth, and they tie the game. I'm sorry, it's the bottom of the ninth, and they tie the game. So my Legion coach says, hey, Madison, get loose. I'm going, whoa, what? I'm supposed to pitch tomorrow night, and Coach Reagan's going to watch me and all that. Get loose. And so I go down just in a fury and just start getting loose. And I don't know if I'm angry or what, but I'm just rifling the ball. So I go out, and the bases are loaded, and there's no outs. And the hitter comes up, and I'm thinking, okay, if I hit this guy, we lose the game.
Yep.
If he hits a fly ball, we lose the game. There's so many ways you can lose a ball game in that situation. And I'm a little bit, I'm still a little bit cranky about, I'm going to pitch Friday night, so I'm not going to get to pitch in front of Coach Reagan Saturday night. So the first pitch I threw was right at the guy's head. The fastball just got away from me, and I was a little bit wild anyway. So the guy ducks, true story, the guy ducks, the ball hits his bat.
Oh, no.
So I strike him out. I end up striking him out. The next guy comes up, I strike him out. The third guy comes up, I strike him out. The game goes into extra innings, and I struck out 9 guys in a row. It's the best I've ever pitched in my life. And so after the game, and we won the game, and after the game, my Legion coach comes up to me, shakes my hand. He said, "Man, you really threw the ball well tonight. And I know you're a little bit upset because you're not going to get to pitch tomorrow night." And I said, "Yeah, coach, to be honest with you, I am, because, I really want to play college baseball. And it's probably the only chance Coach Reagan's going to get to see me." He said, "Well, Coach Reagan wasn't here, but there's 2 guys over there that I'd like for you to meet. One of them was a scout for the Braves, and the other was a scout for the Montreal Expos."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I filled out the little cards that they give you. And sure enough, a couple of days. Oh, here's another thing. No cell phones, obviously, back then. So
no.
The game's over, and we go to a Jerry's restaurant or something to have to get something to eat. And there's a payphone. So I call my dad and I said, "Dad, you're not going to believe this. I met a pro scout tonight." And he said, "No way." And I said, "Yeah, I met a pro scout." And so a couple of days after we got back from Paducah, this guy, Hillman Lyons was his name. He called me and he said, "Hey, I watched you pitch, met you, down in Paducah. And I see you're 17 years old and you've already graduated from high school." I said, "Yeah, I graduated young and all that." And he said, "Well, we're very interested in offering you a contract." I'm going, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I need to speak to your dad because you're under 18 and we need to talk to him." So they talk, and I guess my dad thought, "Hey, there's no harm in him coming up." Well, in between the Paducah thing and me meeting with the scout, Coach Reagan calls from Murray State. He says, "Hey, I had an assistant coach there. He watched you pitch. Plus, I called these pro scouts that saw you, and we're going to offer you a scholarship." So, man, I'm feeling good.
You got stuff.
Yeah. And so now I've got a choice. And so, to make a long story just a little bit longer, Hillman Lyons, the scout for the Expos, offered me a small bonus, very small. And this was the key for my mom and dad. They offered me a college scholarship. Basically, that was at the very beginning of when professional baseball started paying for kids' education. So they paid for my tuition. And so I was, this was late. This was way after the draft. So it was like the 1st of July or something. And he said, "Look, it's really late in the summer. You're 17 years old. You're going to sign, but you're not going to start playing until next summer. So you go to school, you go through a full year of school, and you'll play rookie ball the first year." So that's how it started. So I started playing at 18. And the crazy thing, Dave, is here's this country kid that really knew very little about pitching. I could throw hard. That was when I was 18, I was in rookie ball. When I was 19, I was in AAA.
Oh my goodness. At 19.
Yeah, I was the youngest guy in the International League in 1971.
My goodness. Everything that you encountered was a new lesson in life.
Yes, absolutely. And I've often thought, you hear people say God's got a plan for your life.
Yeah.
I look back, if I hadn't hit that kid's bat, I would have just been some wild country kid that came in and lost the game.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd ever gotten seen by scouts. I really don't know. You can't know those things. But I'm thinking that wild pitch that hit that bat opened up a whole career for me. And if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't have signed with the Expos. I wouldn't have played 5 years of minor league baseball, which really helped me learn about the game. And then I wouldn't have gotten a chance to coach and I wouldn't have had my education paid for, all of those things.
No, it's just amazing how that happens. What a great story. Thanks for sharing that, Keith. One of the things that I want to remind people is if you've got a question or comment, please put it in. Alicia's one of my friends from my Los Angeles days. She wants to know, what is your favorite comeback story for a student that you coached?
Oh, wow. Favorite comeback story? That is a good question. The first guy that popped in my head was Jeff Abbott. We signed Jeff Abbott, and he was a 5'11", 170-pound kid. And he's a late bloomer, and by his sophomore year, he's kind of rocking the baseball world and is becoming a great college baseball player. And a lot of scouts are interested in him. But in 1993, he gets, at the beginning of the season, he gets mono.
Oh.
And so it's a bad case, and it just wipes him out. And so he doesn't get to play. We play in the regionals at University of Texas that spring. And I think, man, if we'd had Jeff Abbott, we might have made some noise. But
yeah, I remember.
Also in that regional was Southern Cal, which they were awesome back then. Texas, of course, they're hosting. And who was the other? I think Notre Dame was the other one, and then Kentucky. So we sort of drew a tough regional. But anyway, Jeff missed that year, and he came back after missing a year from mono and hit, I think it was 432.
Wow.
With 23 home runs, and was just shy of winning the Triple Crown in the SEC, and becomes, I think, a third-round pick. So, that's a great comeback story, and I've had others too, but that's the one that I'm kind of thinking about right now. And he ended up playing, fairly long time with the Chicago White Sox, a little bit with Boston too.
Yeah,
great hitter.
No, great hitter indeed. A couple guys that I just checked in with because I always see if there's anybody that could possibly join. Abby was one of those, and he's busy, but he said hello. He said a big hello to you as well. So
yeah, that's great. He's Abby's a little camera shy sometimes, I think.
That's why he always liked the radio interview. That
he never really he was a guy that never wanted the spotlight if it came to like TV interviews or anything like that. But boy, he could sure get it done on the field.
So another one of the guys that I tried that I know, because I knew he was an athlete at Kentucky, and I knew there were some guys that ended up playing a couple of sports. So former Kentucky quarterback Antonio O'Farrell, I texted him. I said, Antonio, I knew you were an athlete. I can't remember. Did you also play baseball? He's like, no, that was Pookie. But he said, I just want you to know I was a better athlete than Pookie, so I could have been a baseball player. But you did. I saw your mention to Pookie Jones for his birthday the other day. What was it like to have guys that played two sports?
It was phenomenal. I mean, I loved guys that played football. They brought a physical and mental toughness to the game. You don't see it much anymore, but we had Pookie Jones, we had Vince Harrison, we had Steve Phillips. Those guys were mentally tough and physically tough, and it was contagious. So they see, the rest of the players see that toughness that those guys have, and now they get a little tougher too. And so I loved having those guys. There were other guys. Jerry Claiborne, former football coach at Kentucky, was one of my favorite all-time coaches in the world. The only thing I didn't like about him is that he would not let football players play baseball. We had Freddie Maggard, who was drafted out of high school, and he couldn't play. But then it changed, and other coaches came in, and they let guys like Pookie, like Steve Phillips, like Vince Harrison play.
Yeah, it's interesting, Keith, because in my backyard, the first time I lived here in Raleigh, in the backyard of NC State, there was a little battle because Russell Wilson wanted to definitely take a break from football and play baseball. And then when he went on to the minor leagues in a pro deal, I think he hit over 300. Russell Wilson, a great NFL quarterback, could have been a very, very good baseball player if he would have continued on in that.
I tell you, Dave, this is a little coaching tip from an old guy to college baseball coaches out there, even high school baseball coaches out there. Look for those guys on the football team.
Yeah.
Steve Phillips, he came to me. He played for Jerry Claiborne, but then his fifth and final year, who came after Jerry? Was it Bill Curry? I think, yeah. And so
that's when I got there. Yeah.
Yeah, Steve comes into my office one day, and I'd met him, but I really didn't know him. He said, "Hey, Coach, I want to play baseball." I said, "Steve, you're 22 years old, and you haven't played since high school. You're a fifth-year senior, or and he said, "No." He said, "I really want to play. I couldn't play, and I couldn't play with Coach Claiborne and on and on." But he said, "I really want to play," and just out of respect for him, because he was really good on the football field and he was a tough kid, I said, show up over at Shively, and I'll throw some batting practice to you, and we'll just see. He was a left-handed hitter, had a body like Adonis. I mean, his shoulders were huge. And so he's a little rusty. He's got that really sweet left-handed swing. And after about 10 or 12 pitches, he starts hitting missiles back up the middle.
Wow.
And I'm going, man. So I said, okay, come back tomorrow. And the next day I said, come back tomorrow. And after about a week, I said, hey, you're playing. And at the beginning of the season, he was my DH against right-handed pitchers. And after about 3 weeks, he was my everyday right fielder, and he gets drafted by the Yankees.
Wow.
And he missed 4 years, and he still got drafted. So look at those football players that played high school baseball. Strength, speed, toughness, they can help your team.
Well, you know what's interesting, and I'm so glad you told that story, because it also plays a factor in basketball. Keith, you may not know this, but I called Bob Knight's last few years of his coaching career play-by-play. And one of the things that Coach would always tell me is, if you look back on his Indiana and his Texas Tech rosters, there was a football tight end who would be as a walk-on and on his basketball team, because he had some pretty good guys, because the hands they had, the ability to use their body, and just instinctively just knowing things, especially in the motion offense, that made a lot of sense to him.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can see that, and Pookie Jones, more people know about Pookie, of course, because he was the quarterback and just one of the classiest guys that I ever coached. And his bat speed was off the charts. I really believe if Pookie hadn't had that serious shoulder injury, I think he would have played in the big leagues, and I think he would have been a very good big league player, because he just had those leadership skills. He could run a little bit, and as I mentioned, great bat speed, and just a great teammate for the other guys. He would have been a great clubhouse guy.
No, that is amazing. Keith, I gotta tell the story, because you checked in in the green room here, the earliest of any guest. About 20 minutes early, you're checking your camera shot, and I came on and I said hi to you, but I said, you're early, Keith, but I just realized that's kind of a coach in you still, isn't it?
Yeah, I just want to be prepared. I'm as I told you, I want to be the guy that gets the lineup card up in the dugout early, so the guys know who's playing and what order in the lineup and all that. And so yeah, that's I like to do that.
Did it ever affect you, on like weekend games, on like Sunday, because surely you went to church?
Yeah. We would go. Sharon and I would always go to the early service so that I could get out. We'd go to 8:30, and because we'd have like a 1 o'clock Sunday game, I needed to be at the field at 10:30 or something like that. So we'd go to the early service. And I remember one day Sharon thought, man, Keith is really into this sermon, because I was just scribbling notes and just writing stuff down as fast as I could. And then she kind of leaned over and peeked that I was experimenting with my lineup during the sermon. And so she gave me a sharp elbow, and I had to listen again. But I was always, if I was at home during the season, doing anything, going to church, at home, I was always thinking about lineups and, maybe if I move this guy in the 2-hole, or maybe if I put this guy in a leadoff spot, or maybe this guy can drive in a few runs if I put him in the 4 or 5-hole. I was always thinking like that. So I always wanted to be prepared. So when I got to the game, I would have that lineup ready to go on the board.
All right, I've got an interesting concept about being prepared, but we're going to have to save that for a minute, because I know You are a humble man, Keith, down to the core, but the timing on this was coincidental to the fact that you've been named to the Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Thanks, Dave.
Well-deserved, and a great group that will be surrounding you in that in the memory bank there.
Yeah, man, I looked at that. Well, first of all, when I got the call, Dave, I was absolutely blown away. I couldn't believe it. I've been blessed to be in the UK Athletic Hall of Fame, and that blew me away because I looked at all the names, gosh, Frank Ramsey, Cliff Hagan, Cotton Nash, Babe Parilli, all these guys, Alex Groza.
Yeah.
But, I was just I grew up in Kentucky. Even though I went to Western Kentucky, I was really a Wildcat fan too. And I followed a lot of these guys. And then I look at this Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame, and I see names like Pee Wee Reeves and Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
Wesley Unsold. I'm going, whoa, man. And I just, I feel like, man, somebody's made a mistake here.
Keith Madison right there.
But yeah, it's such an honor. And this year, one of the guys I'm going in with is Romeo Crennel. And when I got to Western Kentucky University, it was his last year at Western as a football player.
Wow.
And so he was a big name there. And then Dwayne Casey, of course, he was on staff in basketball here.
That's great.
So it's going to be wonderful to see him. I can't wait to see him.
Oh, that is fantastic. So many great names, and I'm so happy for you. Another former colleague of mine saying hello here, former Channel 36 anchor, Sky Yancey.
Oh, Sky
Ivanovich, watching from California. So thank you for tuning in, Sky.
We miss you, Sky.
And I know she misses the bluegrass as well, but they have it pretty good out there. I would go and visit, and it's not bad out in California. There's some things that are bad. All right, so here's what I want to ask you, Keith. It's a little debate that I'd get into with my good buddy who's managing the Giants now, and Gabe Kapler. First of all, when I covered him as a player, I just knew that he was going to do something after his career. Broadcasting, he was naturally a broadcaster. So I helped him get a tryout in TV, got into that, and now here he is as a manager. But one of the things that I find so frustrating when I talk to him about is this field of analytics, the changing things based on a number, whether it's a pitch count, and he is so stuck on it, and it's obviously working this year, one of the best records in baseball. What is it about analytics that would you have liked to have used it more if there was more of those tools when you were around?
Absolutely. I would have definitely liked to have used it more. I mean, we had spray charts, and I mean, you probably remember John Butler,
Yeah.
He was really good. And we had every pitcher that wasn't pitching was keeping a chart. So we had information, but the way these guys have information now is incredible. Now, in my opinion, I get a little weary of it sometimes because I think we talked about that thing early, Dave, about the heart.
Yeah.
So what number can you put on that?
You can't.
Would Pete Rose have even gotten a chance to play nowadays?
No, I don't know.
What about Eckstein?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just, and if I'm not mistaken, Eckstein was MVP of a World Series, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And Pete Rose, I mean, the hit king, right? So it's just, I think there's that heart, there's that competitive nature that you can't put a number on.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to get, I guess it goes in cycles, but I think we're really heavy on the analytics right now. I think that's going to change a little bit. It's going to get more balanced. I sure hope it does, because right now, sometimes, I mean, I love the game, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I feel like we're watching home run derby.
Yeah.
It's all about the strikeouts. It's all about the home runs. It's all about the velocity. It's all about, the launch angle. the exit velocity. It's all that stuff. We forget sometimes the object of the game is to score runs and to score more runs than the other team. It doesn't matter how you do it, whether you hit it out of the park or whether, David Eckstein perfectly executes a hit and run and the guy goes to third base and the next guy, bunts him in. You want to score runs. And another thing too, and this is not directly related, but I look at the baseball players now. They're huge. I mean, these guys are physical specimens, and maybe I'm a little bit jealous, but it's like they also break down easier. There's more injuries now. They look good and they look stronger, but guys like Pete Rose and Johnny Bench and those kind of guys, they didn't have that many injuries because I think sometimes we're overdoing it a little bit in the weight room. I really believe in strength training. Don't get me wrong, but you don't have to look like Muhammad Ali, to be a great baseball player. You just have to work at your games and improve your skills, and get stronger and make sure that you're conditioned. But I think we're a little bit heavy now on the analytics and on the size. I mean, scouts won't look at a guy that looks like David Eckstein now. They won't look at a guy that looks like Andy Green.
Yeah.
You know what, man, those guys were baseball. They were just baseball guys.
What about the shift? I mean, to me, it's overused. It's not fun to
Don't
watch.
get me started. I tell you, I've seen so many teams, and this is probably more on the college level than major league level even, but they take themselves out of a double play.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And then another thing too, I hear people talk about doing away with the shift. No, just tell your hitters to have a better 2-strike approach.
Right.
Just battle with 2 strikes and hit the ball the other way.
I was going to say, be able to hit the ball to all spots.
Yes. And that's, I mean, even some of the great power hitters in the past were able to do that. Roberto Clemente, Al Kaline. I mean, those guys could spread all over the field, but they also could take you deep. And you're not going to just put a shift on Roberto Clemente.
No, and not live to tell about it.
Right.
They would boo you for that. Well, speak one more thing about analytics. Let's say you could pick one or two that you would use as a go-to now. What would be the most important in your mind?
Wow, boy, that is a good question. I've never thought about that.
You couldn't use them all, but you have to pick one or two.
It kind of pains me to say this, but I think it would be exit velocity.
Okay.
Now that doesn't mean I'm just going to let that guy swing for the fences the entire or every at bat. But what it tells me is he's doing things right. He's squaring the ball up.
Yeah.
And if a guy's and that you can sort of trace that exit velocity, in June, the exit velocity might be one number and in July it might be lower. What's he doing wrong? Is it just because they're pitching differently, or has he done something with his swing? And then you can maybe help him correct that. But I like that. I like that number. And I mean, as an old school guy, you could always listen to how the ball exited the bat. You could hear it. You've heard many times, Dave, that the ball off of his bat just sounds different.
Yeah.
And the guy that's been around the game as much as you have and as I have, you can hear it. But that exit velocity that tells me a lot. That tells me is this guy's really squaring it up well, or he's not squaring it up well at all.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Here's another one. I did quite a few games with Rick Sutcliffe on as the broadcast analyst, and so Sut in coaches meetings, he'd just get to talking to the coaches or whatever. And one particular time, there was a certain pitcher they were talking about on the team, and he said, "Hey, who am I?" He said, "But I think he needs to come down at a different intensity on his front leg, because Sut said, I used to change up so many of my pitches just by the way I came down on my front leg. I mean, those are stuff. I've been around the game a long time, but not as much as you, Keith. Those are stuff when I hear that, there's just all kinds of little nuances that really greats of the game came up with. Or
yeah, you hang around a guy like Rick Sutcliffe. I mean, you're going to learn a lot about the game. And when I was a minor league pitcher, I was not a big time prospect. And at that time, we had roving pitching coaches. We didn't have a full-time pitching coach.
Yeah.
When those roving pitching coaches would come in, they would spend all their time with the big-time prospects. Well, I would sneak into the bullpen and just listen to what he was teaching, the big prospect, and I would learn that way. And then I would sit around in the bullpen, and we would talk pitching. And, hey, how do you grip your changeup? Do you do anything differently? How do you grip your curveball? Do you like to throw the 2-seam fastball or the 4-seam fastball? I learned probably more from my fellow pitchers than I did anyone. I remember when I was in Tampa, when I was in the Reds organization, a guy by the name of Gary Nolan came down for sort of a rehab time in Tampa. He was a great big league pitcher, and he was one of my idols. And he was such a neat guy. He would get on the bus, and we would go to from Tampa to Miami or from Tampa to Winter Haven, and he would get on the bus with us and travel with us.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And he just loved the game. And so I would hang out with him. And Gary, when he first came up, he had a phenomenal fastball. But then, like a lot of guys, he had some injuries, and then he got this really big curveball. And I would say, hey, Gary, show me the grip again. How do you spin that? And he could stand 40 feet from you and just throw that curveball, and it would drop off the table, just him just throwing easy. But he had that great spin that and so I learned from him how to grip a curveball, how to the mechanics of it and all that. So you can learn a lot. If you want to learn, you can.
Yeah. I want kids, I want their parents to listen to this as we do each time. And sometimes, like Brandon Noble last week, a former NFL player who has been involved in coaching, what advice would you give parents today, Keith, who have kids who are young enough to play in sports competitively? What would you advise them on?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, don't get too awfully concerned when your kids fail. Don't worry about that too much, because you really learn when you fail. If you go 0 for 4 in a little league game, it's not the end of the world. It just means that you need to make some adjustments and just work a little bit harder. And also, I think I can answer that question in telling a short story. And this is not applicable to high school or little league or anything like that, but in the college program, parents, and bless their hearts, they're so much more involved now in their kids' activities than they were when I was growing up. And sometimes they get a little bit too involved, I think. But I think it was around 96 or 95, maybe 94, somewhere in there. I got a letter from one of my players' mothers. And this letter was blasting me. It was like, I can't believe, you're not hitting my kid 5th in the lineup or 4th in the lineup. I can't believe, he's hitting 7th or 8th, and he's only playing against left-handed pitchers or whatever. I can't remember the whole story, but I'm thinking, wow, this is interesting. She actually, she believes she knows more about my team than I do. But parents need to understand, and I was a baseball parent too. My boys played.
Yeah.
They need to understand that when a parent watches a baseball game or a football game or a basketball game and their son or their daughter's playing, 99% of their attention is focused on their child. But in basketball, there's 4 other kids on the court. In baseball, there's 8 other kids on the field.
Great point.
And coaches see all 9. I don't focus on 99% of my time on one player, whereas the parent sees every move they make. But back to my letter from the mother. So that afternoon in practice, right before practice, I met with the team in the locker room, and I held that letter up to the whole team. And I said, guys, I got a letter from one of your mothers today. And it wasn't very nice. And that's okay. I can handle that. But I just want you to know that you need to be a man. You don't need to have your mother write letters to me. And I said, the next letter I get from a mother or a father, I'm going to post it on the bulletin board. And all your teammates are going to see that you're not a man. I never got another letter. Never did. And I just think parents don't understand that, you know, especially at the college level or at the professional level, if your son is 18 years old, 19 years old, he could be on a mountainside in Afghanistan, be fighting for his country. And there's absolutely nothing you can do for him then except pray for him.
Yeah.
When that kid's out on the field, there's nothing you can do for him. He's got to compete. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And if he competes and if he's willing to learn, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But we just try to protect. We try to make it happen for our kids. And we have to encourage them, provide them opportunities, give them the best opportunities we can. But we can't control the outcome. No.
That's an excellent point, Keith. That's an excellent point. You were the all-time winningest coach at Kentucky Wildcats baseball. What made you step aside? When did you know it was done?
That's another really interesting story. We were having a really tough year in 2003. As a matter of fact, my last couple of years were not good. And I was just grinding and working and trying to get it better and to recruit harder and all that. As you know, I'm a man of faith, and my faith is very important to me. And I remember we were competing against Kent State University in a midweek game. And I'm in the dugout. And this particular day, our team, who had been struggling, man, they're making the plays. Our pitchers are throwing strikes. We're getting timely hits. Everything is going perfect. And my thought was, this is when we're turning it around. We're gonna make a great run, and we're gonna get back into the NCAA regional.
Right.
And as soon as I had that thought, there was a really profound thought that I had deep in my heart. And I knew it was from God. And he said, this is your last season coaching at the University of Kentucky.
Wow.
Wow. I was stunned. I mean, and I'm thinking here, I'm in the middle of the game, and I know this sounds strange to some people, but I really felt like I was getting this message from God. But I tried to ignore it. So the next day, the same thing happened. I mean, we played really, really well again, and we won. And I said, that thought I had yesterday, that was just a fleeting thought. It was nothing to it. Well, that Friday night, we played Arkansas, and they were ranked in the top 10. They had a really good club. And Dave, they absolutely pounded us. It was humiliating defeat. And I just tossed and turned all night. I thought about the events of the week, and on that Tuesday, how I really felt like God was speaking to me. So Saturday morning, I'm having a cup of coffee with Sharon. And I said, Sharon, I got to share this with you. Tuesday, during the game, I really felt like God was telling me this is my last season. And I really, this morning, I feel like it should be. I knew. So my brother comes over and shares a cup of coffee that morning too. And he lived in Chattanooga. He drove all the way up for the game. And so I told him the same thing. But when I told Sharon that story, and I said, I really think God's telling me this is my last season, she went, yes. I mean, she was excited.
She was ready.
Yeah, she was ready. And she had been an incredibly supportive wife for 25 years. And she never complained about me being away from home or anything like that. And so, and when I told my brother, he said, man, that is great. I thought he would argue with me and say, no, you're just going through a tough spell, tough it out,
Yeah.
But he didn't. He said, that's great. He said, you and Sharon are going to be able to do things you've never been able to do before. Well, 2 years later, I announced it that weekend. I announced that I'm at the end of the season, I'm not going to coach any longer. And 2 years later, I'm on a baseball field in the Dominican Republic teaching little kids who absolutely love the game how to play baseball better. And and then that same voice within me said, this is what you need to do. And so now I'm, for 15 years, I've been taking guys like Ron Polk,
Yeah.
Austin Kearns, Andy Green, Lou Pinella's been with us. Mariano Rivera's been with us.
Oh, that's great.
Just taking guys down to the Dominican Republic and helping those young kids that love the game so much. There was a reason for that. There was a reason that those last 2 years really sucked at UK. And there's a reason that God spoke to me and said, hey, this is your last year, because he had another plan. And the plan, back in 1969 was for that baseball to hit that bat so that I could get a chance. And then fast forward many, many years later, and I'm leaving Kentucky and taking coaches and teams to the Dominican Republic to help kids.
That is amazing. Now, that organization, people can find out information about that, I'm sure, right?
It's Score International. And we take all kinds of trips. We take baseball trips, school trips, church trips, and we just do short-term mission work in countries like the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica. And we also do it here in the States. I just got back from Harlan. We did an outreach in Harlan County, and we put on a baseball clinic and did some other things down there. So there's a lot of opportunities to serve. And there's something really special that happens to us, Dave, when we serve. And we change. We see the world as in a different way. And all these people, they're hating on each other right now. If they were just to go out and serve their fellow man every once in a while, it would make a difference.
No, that's amazing. And I'm so glad that you and the others get a chance to do this. I will have to say, because those who watch regularly, and Alicia, after you answered her question, she said she loves today's show. Thanks, Keith. Others will see this in replay mode. Normally, I'm done by now, but I did ask a certain former player to check in, and as some former athletes will do, they're usually out on the golf course. So he texted me at the beginning of the show. He said he had only 2 holes to go. So I'm hanging on, Keith. So I hope you don't mind. I told you it's about 30, 40 minutes, but we'll see if he checks in here in a few minutes. But
that's fine.
That's my life traveling with athletes, right? They got something else going many times. So
and usually on a golf course, there's more stories being told, and more. Those guys have so much fun, and whoever it is, I don't begrudge him at all.
No, and he can tell a long story too. So that's and that's funny, Keith, because when I was covering spring training in Major League Baseball, I noticed the difference. No longer did guys play golf. It used to be that, especially the pitchers, they'd be to the golf course in the afternoon. None of these young guys play the game anymore.
Wow. I think that we have become so specialized. Most guys my age grew up playing football, basketball, baseball. Because we didn't have a lot of off-season training, and now you have personal training. Guys grow up with hitting lessons, travel baseball where they play 70, 80, 90 games a year. So they really don't have time to pick up golf or fishing or tennis or anything like that. And that's too bad. I mean, obviously these guys that are playing Major League Baseball now, Dave, they make enough money to where when they get out of baseball, they're going to be able to do whatever they want to do. They can take golf lessons, but in some ways I respect them because they're taking care of themselves a lot better. Their nutrition is better. They have better workout routines. There's more knowledge now than ever before. I mean, you can get on YouTube now and you can learn anything you want to learn. It's phenomenal. I can't put anything together. And like I was trying to learn how to start a chainsaw last year. And I just went on to YouTube. How do you start this kind of chainsaw? And man,
there it is.
It goes. So I'm thinking, hey, I didn't have that, so these guys there's no excuse for players and coaches not to have knowledge now. It's out there.
No, absolutely not. All right, I got a few more things on the top of my head. One is you mentioned Ron Polk. I wanted to mention that as well. I was there when he was put into the College Baseball Hall of Fame and heard some of his stories. What did serving around Ron, what did you learn from him?
Wow, I learned a lot. That guy is a baseball encyclopedia, and his organizational skills are off the charts. And I learned how to be more organized because my personality is sort of fly by the seat of your pants.
Okay.
He,
That's good.
this is before, computers and all that. He would type out on his old typewriter a practice schedule. Practice starts at 2:47. We stretch until 3:06. And then at the bottom of the practice schedule, bus leaves tomorrow at 1:04. And so one day I said, Coach Polk, why isn't it 1:15 or 1:00? And he said, you remember 1:04 or you remember 1:14. You're not going to remember.
Great point.
So he was that organized. And when I first met him, it was in, I think, July, and he had Christmas cards on his desk. And I said, Coach, why, you don't mind me asking, why do you have Christmas cards on your desk? He said, well, every day this time of year, I do these Christmas cards. That way I've got them ready to go in December. And he sends Christmas cards to every former player, every former assistant coach.
Oh, that is great.
And he contacts every player in the Southeastern Conference that gets drafted and congratulates them. He is a master of connection, but he's organized. And that long answer to a short question, I learned how to get organized and how to create a practice plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, I mentioned players in the SEC earlier, but, you're surrounded by Hall of Fame type of coaches throughout your whole process being at Kentucky and being in the SEC. What would you change? What rule of college baseball would you change, Keith, if you were in charge?
Reviews.
Okay.
I
didn't have them back when I was covering you.
Yeah, I don't understand why it takes so long. I love it that they can do that, but I don't understand why the umpires have to have a 2 or 3 minute meeting, and then they go to the to the headset, and it takes a play that you and I could watch. I mean, any baseball guy, it's really close, but yeah, he's safe. The ball got there just a hair late. It just takes so long, and the pace of play in college baseball, we have a phenomenal product. I mean,
yeah,
Southeastern Conference baseball, Pac-10 baseball, ACC baseball, it's incredible. It's, if you want to see good baseball, but we need to improve the pace of play.
Yeah.
We have, in my opinion, it takes too much time to relay signs from the dugout to the pitcher. It's just, we need to quicken that up. We need to, and here's another thing. This is not a rule, but we're not allowing players to learn how to think for themselves. Everything is called from the dugout. And, Skip Bertman he's a much greater coach than I ever was, but he would disagree with me because he says, you don't want an 18-year-old determining your career prospects. And don't let an 18-year-old determine whether you're going to have a job next year. But
no, definitely don't, please.
But boy, coaches now give signs for everything, and it takes forever. And now when players get in trouble, they look to the dugout. When I was a pitcher and I got in trouble, I looked to my catcher, and we had these methods of communicating, and he knew when he needed to kick my butt, and he knew when he needed to encourage me. And now I see when pitchers get in trouble, the first thing they do is look at the dugout. And to me, that's not good. You need to let players take responsibility. They're the ones that play the game. They're the ones that compete. You have to let them take the bull by the horns. That's my soapbox for the day.
That is amazing. I mean, that is an amazing story. That's why I wanted to ask you that about that as well. Well, Keith, you have been so patient. I got a text message that from the guy, and so it's just not going to work. That's live television, live stream. He's still going to be out on the golf course a while. I
Hey.
tried to get I tried to get the great Jim Leyritz.
Oh man, yeah.
And Jim was excited. He had a short career there at Kentucky, but he wanted to share how much he appreciated the job that you did and the boost that you gave him. And everybody knows the story of Jimmy went on to really be a great pinch hitter in baseball and a multi-tool player as well. And then one of the Yankee World Series heroes as well.
Just a great hitter and a very competitive guy. He could just hit. He grew up in the Cincinnati area and, grew up watching the Big Red Machine, and he knew how to compete. He was one of the great hitters I've ever coached.
Yes. Well, that was the surprise that I had, and I don't mind blowing that now. I actually told him that, you know what, with this little device we have here, we can put it together and tape it quickly some other time because I know he wanted to say hello to you.
Yeah, well, he's a good one. Tell him I said hi.
I definitely will, but golf must be important to him today. You know, he's in one of those charity events on the East Coast. So
hey, you tell him I said if he learns how to shoot under 90, then his game will go a little quicker. Okay.
Either him or whoever else he's playing with. But we all know how New York is, and Jim doesn't have to pay for a dinner in New York, right?
That's exactly right.
When you're a World Series hero, Keith, it's been such a pleasure. Enjoy the festivities when they put you in the Hall of Fame there, and I hope I get a chance to see you at the end of the next month.
Thanks so much, Dave. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks so much, Keith. We'll look forward to talking to you soon. The great Keith Madison, everyone. Thanks for joining me for a extended version of Live at 5, and I hope there'll be a little surprise there. We're going to try to do those other times as well. Maybe he'll just manufacture it, put it together, and then edit it into the replay of this as well. Thanks so much for joining Live at 5. I do it each and every week on a Friday night. That was Kentucky's all-time winningest baseball coach. Last week, Brandon Noble, former NFL player. The week before that, the voice of the Dallas Mavericks and Mark Followell. And the week before that, my former colleague there at Channel 36 and Kenny Rice. So if you want to catch up on those, you can go to YouTube. Please search Shore Sports Media. Please subscribe. I know you can watch it on YouTube without having to subscribe, but that subscription will help us get the ability to have a custom name on that YouTube channel as well. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great weekend. Have a blessed weekend. Thanks for joining us on Live at 5.